so I'm Allison Hicks. I'm here today with Len Gordon. It's November 9th, 2008, and we are at the Valley of the Sun JCC doing the interview for the Arizona Jewish Historical Society. So I've been reading a lot of the information that you gave us about your life and your involvement in the community, specifically some of the things around ASU. What I'd like to do before we get into some of your very interesting activities that you have going on now is tell me about first coming to Arizona and really what motivated you to come from Michigan to such a different climate where the Jewish community was probably a lot smaller.
Well, I had gone to school at the University of Michigan and Wayne State University for different degrees. I had my first 2 degrees in history at Michigan and Wayne State. Then I earned my PhD in sociology in 1966 at Wayne State University, and I had been serving as the Michigan area director of the American Jewish Committee for 4 years. And but I had my PhD, and I wanted to start, and my wife had earned at that point 1 degree. She earned 3 more, including a PhD in geography herself here at ASU. But I had 2 offers in New York, and I had this offer at Arizona State University because they were starting to develop their PhD programs. But when we came out here, I was asked to be the Hillel faculty advisor, which I was pleased to do. So one of the things we did was to raise a lot of funds to build what is now the Hillel right off campus. I was on the committee that hired Rabbi Bart Lee and brought Marcy in from Stanford University, where my son actually graduated. And they've been great. In fact, they've been here ever since. We're talking about over 30 years ago. And that was, and then I started my career in sociology, became chair of the department for 9 years, then in 1990 became academic dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences until 2002. Then retired, and Rena and I joined Oradam congregation locally because they were founded in Michigan, in Birmingham. It's a humanistic congregation. And we traveled around the world until Rena got very ill in 2005 with pancreatic cancer. But and when I lost Rena, the university called me to be a dean again, so I'm dean now of the Emeritus College, which we started 3 years ago. We're the 20th Emeritus College. We have 366 members and continue to do research and teaching and offering programs for the community and on campus.
That's amazing. Now, you mentioned before the formation of the Hillel at Arizona State.
Yes.
What was the Jewish community like specifically at Arizona State back then? Was there a lot of Jewish faculty, students?
No, there were very few. We now have over 4,000 Jewish students. We have hundreds of Jewish faculty. But when I came, there were very few Jewish students or Jewish faculty. And that was, and the community had not many more than 10,000 Jewish people here. Mm-hmm. I came from a very big Jewish community in the Detroit metro area and well established. And I found when I used to go to the Jewish Community Center to help raise funds for the Jewish Welfare Federation, we make phone calls. A typical call would be, well, I gave back in Chicago, I gave back in Detroit. And of course they were moving out here, and so they weren't really identified. And it was, Hillel was one of the ways of getting the few hundred Jewish students that we had involved, but we didn't have any place to meet. So I was friends with one of the Methodist students who contacted me with the Baker Center, and they let us meet in the Methodist Center right off campus. And they had a very nice, on the bima, they had a cross, of course, but we had a Star of David. And when we had services, we just put the Star of David around. When they came in the next day, I guess they put the cross around. They were very friendly and very helpful. And I worked with the students in the Jewish Community Council and American Jewish I was on the board of the American Jewish Committee chapter here. And we, much of our activity was presenting what was happening and developing a strong base, and we did. And then as the university got to be a major research university, we're one of 84 in the country now since the early 90s, that's a sign you're going to attract a lot of Jewish students and faculty, and that's what we've done.
Something that I wanted to ask you about was raising children here. Obviously, you had your own links over at ASU, but they, were also growing up in the rest of the Phoenix community. What kind of experiences do you think they had growing up in Phoenix community as opposed to the experiences you had maybe growing up in Detroit?
Well, they're clearly different, because if you grow up in a long-established community where you have connections, the family connections. I mean, when I went to school, and my kids experienced some of this, I could go 9 blocks to my elementary school, and there would be 7 uncles and aunts, dozens of cousins. My grandparents on my dad's side were right next to the school. I could get something to eat anywhere, and I could also interact with them. Then, when you come out here, we didn't have any family. In fact, I didn't know anybody. I just was hired because of my academic record, and they wanted me here, and it looked I didn't think I'd stay long, to tell the truth. I wanted to be part of starting a new PhD program, and then I thought I'd go back east. And, but it kept getting better and better. But one of the things that was really different is that without close family that you see every day and interact with, people were in the same boat from all over the country. So, and particularly at the university, because when you get a PhD at a university, you don't stay at that university. The American tradition is we have more University of Michigan grads than the University of Michigan does, for example, because you're supposed to go, they don't want inbreeding, that's the tradition. Which means that people were coming in, I mentioned I hired someone from Princeton, Stanford, Michigan. Well, if they're all over, the first thing they do is start friendships very quickly. Some of the closest friends are over 40 years old now from when we first came, because people were open to connecting as very good friends who were as close as many family are. And I think that was one of the things the kids got here that was different, because clearly back in Michigan, the Detroit metro area, they'd see their cousins and aunts and uncles all the time.
And do you think that the foundation of Hillel at ASU has also been a contributing factor to not only people coming to ASU from the Jewish community, but also staying in Phoenix? Because I know a lot of people I know who went to ASU when they were younger, there was no Hillel, they didn't feel a connection to the community, and people who have experienced the Hillel seem to stay.
Oh, right. In my field, sociology, one of the phenomena we've been looking at is chain migration. Somebody comes out, and for example, because Rena and I were out here, one of Rena's nephews, who's a computer science graduate at Lawrence Tech in Michigan, got a job here as a technical consultant. Well, he works full-time for AAA. Well, he's out here now with his wife. They have a beautiful little baby, Chloe, but they're part of this community. Why? Because it's chain migration. We were here. He could have gone to Los Angeles or Seattle or some other place. And that's been happening for many people. They come out and visit, and then all of a sudden they end up living out here. Either young professionals or older people decide it's a wonderful place to retire, except for the summer. And they do.
Thank you so much. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Sure, enjoyed it.